They're the greatest funk band that ever was. Sly is probably the single greatest writer that I can even try to think of.
And there you have it, the funk master telling you that Sly Stone was incredible. He was the dude to actually package funk in a way that the world could appreciate it.
Ah, that dude in the Rocky movies.
No, man, not that dude. We're talking about Sly Stone. I thought you was smart in that. I thought you was educated.
I got a college degree, but I'm just slow.
Oh, I see. Anyway, guys, what we're doing tonight, we're going to get into Sly's life, his accomplishments, his milestones and stuff like that, and take a quick listen to some of his most popular songs. So y'all hang around to the end so you can learn what you need to learn.
Yeah. So you are still using?
Well, no, but I want to be through with it.
You want to be through with it?
Yeah.
How long have you been clean?
This guy right here is special. You would never know who he was unless somebody told you. Yeah, but we'll come back to him later. First, let me tell you about another guy who was a pioneer in making funk a music genre in the 70s. So, when you talk about funk becoming identifiable, when it stopped being just something bands did and started becoming something the industry could package, sell, and copy, you have to stop in the late 1960s and look at one man standing in the middle of two different worlds. That man was Sly Stone. And this is where most people get him wrong. They either talk about his clothes, his drugs, or his chaos, but that is not where his power came from. Sly was not born into funk. He found it cooking on the stove, grabbed some of his seasoning, and added it to the crock pot. But his real story starts here. He was born Sylvester Stewart in Denton, Texas, on March 15th, 1943, and into a middle-class religious family. His parents were deep in the Church of God in Christ, which meant spiritual music was expected to be heard. When the family eventually moved west to Vallejo, California in the early 1950s, the children were already being trained to sing and perform. Out of 5 children, the 4 oldest kids at the time, Sylvester, Loretta, Freddie, and Rose, formed a gospel group called the Stewart Four. Based on the Delta numbers imprinted on the master, Sylvester was only 13 years old when they cut their first song called On the Battlefield for My Lord. This young man was a musical prodigy, while the youngest sister was still way too young to be involved. But Vietta would later grow and be part of her own group through Sly called Yep, Little Sister. And this tells you right there that Sly didn't just come from the streets. He came from church harmony, discipline, and live performance. Oh, the name Sly? Well, it started as a goof-up in an elementary classroom when a classmate fumbled the spelling of his real name, scribbling Slyvester instead of Sylvester. The other kids thought it was funny and clowned him for a while, but he didn't flinch. He just wore the name until the teasing lost its teeth, and the nickname stuck for good. Meanwhile, he was gaining the skills of a pro on keyboards, guitar, bass, and drums by age 11. By the time Sylvester hit high school, he was already moving beyond gospel and straight into the sound of the day. He and his brother Freddie joined student bands, and one of the early groups was a doo-wop outfit called the Viscanes, who were all about tight harmony, smooth phrasing, and locking voices together, which later became a big part of how Sly built his funk records. The Viscanes cut local singles, and Sylvester even recorded solo side work under the name Danny Stewart. So, long before anybody knew him as Sly Stone, he was already stacking studio experience, learning how records were built from the inside. Going into the early 60s, Sly added trumpet to his mixed bag and mastered composition and theory as well at Vallejo Junior College. By 1964, Sylvester had reinvented himself as Sly Stone because he saw his future potential as solid as a rock. And this is where things really start lining up for funk.
The host of music. Do the thing, Lou Courtney, Greatest Love, ZZ Hill. Yeah, whole world of the stage, the Fantastic Four, get to stepping.
He became a fast-talking DJ at radio station KSOL, a major R&B station in the San Mateo area. And here's what some don't know. He was one of the first black radio DJs to mix white rock acts like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones into an R&B playlist. That meant Sly was literally training his ear and his audience to hear groove, rhythm, and attitude as something that crossed racial and genre lines, which later became the DNA of a band on the horizon. Yep, he worked there all the way up to the start of Sly and the Family Stone. During that time, Sly was also working behind the scenes as a record producer for Autumn Records. He was the secret weapon in the basement, producing local rock groups and teaching them how to find a groove. One of his biggest early wins came by producing Bobby Freeman's Come On and Swim, which became a national hit. That record put Sly inside the machinery of hit-making, radio play, and record sales, long before he ever became famous himself. He would not just be an artist. He had to know how the industry shaped sound. Sly Stone enters the story at the exact moment when the street funk of guys like James Brown was ready to go global. Funk didn't even have a name yet, but Sly was about to take that raw language and give it a structure the entire music business could finally understand. That already forming language and give it a new audience and a new kind of power. So, by the time he stepped out front, he already knew how grooves, hooks, and rhythms had to be built to travel from the street all the way to the charts. The stage was set for a quantum leap in 1966. Sly was leading Sly and the Stoners, and at the same time, his brother Freddie had Freddie and the Stone Souls. Saxophonist Jerry Martini urged the brothers to combine the best of both bands, which led to the birth of Sly and the Family Stone in late 1966. By now, Sly had mastered the organ, their sister Rose joined on keyboards, Cynthia Robinson was on trumpet, Jerry Martini on saxophone, Greg Errico handled the drums while Freddie took over on guitar, and Larry Graham completed the lineup on bass guitar. They released their first single, Underdog, in September 1967. And that thing flopped, but somebody agreed to release the album a month later anyway. A Whole New Thing was a commercial flop too, though today it is revered for pioneering the band's influential psychedelic soul sound. Yet, it made Clive Davis give the band an ultimatum to sink or swim. Clive told Sly his music was too complex for the audience who just wanted to dance. Sly was offended, but he saw the band was about to be dropped. So, in a mere 4 minutes, Sly went in the kitchen and cooked up this steak dinner. It was on fire. Dance to the Music, released in January 1968. It was the band's breakthrough hit, peaking at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song's success effectively saved the band and became the formula for the psychedelic soul sound. Ironically, the band members originally hated the song, calling it corny and too pop-friendly. Next, they showed the world who they really were. In November 1968, they released the single Everyday People. That thing is still hot and relevant today. It was their first #1 hit on both the pop and R&B charts. And it popularized the phrase, different strokes for different folks. It served as an influential anthem for civil rights and social commentary. Now, before we go too far in the story, we have to look at the massive hits that defined their peak. Even though these tracks captured different moods, they solidified Sly as a hit-making machine.
Everybody is a star. You can make it if you try. It's a family affair. It's a family affair.
Those tracks show the total range of his genius. But going back to '69, they took it even higher. I Want to Take You Higher was originally the B-side to the single, Stand. But it became a cultural phenomenon after the band's legendary 3:30 a.m. performance at Woodstock on August 17, 1969. That set is widely cited as the highlight of the entire festival. One of Sly's biggest contributions to funk was how he elevated the rhythm section. In December 1969, he released a double A-side single. One side was the soulful, Everybody Is a Star, but the other side changed music forever. Larry Graham's playing on Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself again introduced slap bass to the mainstream. The bass was no longer just holding down the bottom, it was popping and snapping in conversation with the drums. This approach directly influenced Bootsy Collins and the entire next generation of funk bassists. Sly also changed how funk could feel emotionally. The band he created was unlike anything else in music. They were racially integrated, included both men and women, and hit with the energy of a rock group. This allowed Sly to take the ideas of James Brown and push them into mainstream youth culture. He continued this evolution into 1973 with this hit.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around the thing to me.
If You Want Me to Stay, that track stripped the sound down, using a leaner, more atmospheric groove that would later influence artists like Prince and the evolution of R&B in the decades to follow. By the early 70s, Sly's life outside the studio was becoming as chaotic as the music was tight. Even as he spiraled, he still pulled off massive stunts, like getting married to Kathy Silva in front of 20,000 fans at Madison Square Garden in '74. He had a son with Kathy, but she filed for divorce after 4 months. Sly would later have 2 daughters with other different women, but the family stability didn't last. The fame, the lawsuits, and the drugs were starting to drown out the music, leading to the release of the socially charged "There's a Riot Going On." The 80s brought brushes with the law, including a 1983 court appearance on a cocaine possession charge, showing that the battles with temptation were far from over. Comeback attempts peppered the following decades, including a high-profile appearance at the Grammy tribute in 2006, where he left before the end, hinting at his complicated relationship with fame and stage life. Then in 1993, Sly and the Family Stone were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Their influence was no longer up for debate, but it was a crazy night, and his good friend George Clinton made sure it was.
Wow. What's happening, y'all? When I first heard of Sly and the Family Stone, I got a little pissed off. But it was definitely that this is the baddest sucker I've ever heard in my life. But we went on to be in the shadow of Sly's for some years, and finally we met him, and it was a love affair from then on.
And Sly kept the crowd holding its breath, but he finally appeared at the end that night, and it was kind of weird.
Thank you all very much. I love you personally very much, and see you soon.
But the induction was not just a tribute to old hits. It was a recognition that his sound had reshaped how both funk and rock were played.
Yeah.
But
So you are
back to
still
that
using
guy way back at the beginning of my story. This is where his Twilight Zone episode began happening. By 2011, Sly was basically living in Los Angeles, in a camper van on the side of the same street area where the movie Boys in the Hood was filmed in the 90s. A move seen by many as rock bottom, although many have said he actually still owned a house in an anonymous Los Angeles suburb. I don't know if that makes it better. Even in these years, fans recognized his importance, and street interviews captured him speaking about his status, struggles, and mindset. He had been beaten out of a lot of money in the industry, and legal battles over his catalog extended into the mid-20s, with out-of-court settlements in 2017 resolving past royalties. But no matter who you are or what you think you've accomplished, the end always seems to have the last say. And that last word came on June 9th, 2025. Sadly, Sylvester Stewart, Sly Stone, passed away at age 82 from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and other underlying health issues. Here, the world lost a revolutionary, but his music, influence, and the way he reshaped funk live on. And in the countless artists like Bootsy Collins, Prince, and Parliament-Funkadelic who owe a debt to the grooves Sly made mainstream. Sly Stone's story reminds us that talent, creativity, and vision can change a genre forever, but life outside the spotlight can be just as complex and unpredictable. Hey, that was kind of long, but thanks for hanging around. I hope you learned what you needed to know. You probably knew a lot of that, and things that you didn't know came along with it. If this is your first time hearing about Sly and the Family Stone, my condolences go out to you. You need to develop that music mindset. And I hope you guys appreciate this on the Music Mindset channel. Check you out next time. Thanks.